Okay, welcome back. This is video 3. We're still in the same period of infancy and childhood, but we're going to look at cognitive development. We're also going to touch on physical development as well. So that is what you have in store for you for this video. So let's get started. Okay, we've got some learning targets for cognitive development specifically. You see we've got some key friends that are going to pop up that you might need to know. But let's start with physical development. Okay, a term that you're going to need to know is maturation. And what does that mean? That is the biological growth process that's uninfluenced by experience. So for example, this is the idea that your body does certain things at different times. So on average, you're able to roll over at 3 months. I'll give you an example. There's a cute little video.
Where are you going?
Oh,
good
yay,
job.
he just rolled over.
Oh, good job.
How cute. So there's nothing that the mom could have done here in this video to make him roll over any earlier than 3 months. Okay, that's just something that happens at 3 months, and experience is not going to be an influence here. Okay, sitting unsupported for 6 months. We've got a cute little video again. You see that he's sitting up by himself.
Here's Charlie.
So super cute. He's able to sit by himself. Again, this is something that happens at 6 months. It's not going to happen at 3 months. It's not going to happen at 4 months. There's a set time for when certain physical things happen. Okay, crawling, you usually see this around 8 or 9 months. Okay, and you see the little baby, he's crawling. Okay, again, the baby is not going to crawl at 6 months. It's something that's going to happen at 8 or 9 months. And then walking, usually begins around 12 months. Sometimes you have people that are able to walk or start walking at 11, but no baby's going to walk at 6 months, regardless of how much you try to get that baby to walk at 6 months. It's not developed enough yet physically. Okay, let's see this cute little, look, aww, walking around. Oh, how cute. Little baby walking around. Okay. So obviously all of these are on average. Someone might be a little bit early, someone might be a little bit late, but regardless, these biological things happen at certain times. Same thing with potty training. If you try to potty train a baby at 6 months, you just can't. Their body is not there yet, right? And so as you're going through all of these physical changes, this process, that whole process is called maturation. And then, okay, so walking independently is usually pretty solidified at 15 months.
Hey.
Okay, so that's kind of all we're going to touch on for physical development. Cognitive development, though, there's a lot of different steps to it. Okay, enter Jean Piaget. He's French. Okay, my kids last year would call him Piglet. I don't know, there's no L, but they said that's what it looks like. He believed that children moved from stage to stage as they matured and were exposed to relevant types of experiences. Okay, so he's got an idea that there's 4 different stages of cognitive development. You're in a stage during a certain age period, and then once you move to a new age period, you're in a different stage. Okay, believing that development occurs in stages derives from discontinuous understanding of development. Cool, but what is discontinuous? Okay, this is the idea that development involves distinct and separate stages with different kinds of behaviors and milestones occurring at each stage, each starting and stopping at points. So when we look at his different stages, we're going to see the first one starts and stops at a certain time, the next one starts and stops at a certain time, and so on. Sometimes people think that development can be continuous, which just means that, you're continuing to move forward, it's gradual, and stuff changes throughout your lifespan. Okay, let's get into what a schema is. We've talked about this before. We talked about it in our last video, but schemas are mental molds in which we pour our experiences. It's what? That sounds weird. It's basically how we identify things and we craft things based on what we've seen. So let's take these two pictures off to the side. You have a zebra and you have a tiger. Okay, at your point in life, I imagine you know the difference between zebra and tiger, but at one point, you were exposed to animals with like a tail, with 4 legs, and you probably called them all one thing at first. Okay, so you developed a schema for animal that has changed as you've gotten older because you're exposed to new things, you have new experiences, but we all started somewhere. So, how do we form these schemas and concepts? So, as children experience new things, they shape our schemas in one of 2 ways. You can either have assimilation, which means you interpret new information in terms of an existing schema. Okay, so if you think of the zebra and tiger, this would be the idea if you're familiar with the tiger first, and then you're exposed to a zebra, in assimilation, you're going to call them both a tiger. Okay, because that new information is just going to get absorbed into the schema that you've already created for the tiger. Now, when you get a little bit older, you can go through accommodation. This is the idea that you're adapting your existing schemas to incorporate new information. So if you start with a tiger and then you're exposed to a zebra, you're able to determine, like, yes, those are both animals, but those are 2 different types of animals. And you're able to adapt your existing schema of what you think an animal is like, and incorporate that there's different types of animals than just a tiger. Right now you have a tiger and a zebra and a cow and a horse and all that fun stuff. Yeah, so example, you see the zebra that goes into the file of animal, and a horse also goes into the same file. So this is why, okay, for example, if you see a kid that recognizes a dog and then they see like a cat, they might still call the cat a dog. Okay, because they're not old enough to tell the difference between, oh, those are 2 different animals. They just see some of the same characteristics, and so then therefore they call everything a dog. But accommodation would be, okay, we've got a dog, or in this case it's a zebra, going into the file, and then you see another animal and they're going into their own file because you can realize that those 2 things are different. Okay, another example. So if you see an SUV for the first time, if you were assimilating this new information, what would that look like? Okay, a perfect example. Just think of like little kids, right? Think of if you've got a little kid in the car and you see, and they're exposed to like a little 4-door, 4-wheel car, okay? Like a sedan type car. They're going to call that a car. And then they might see an SUV for the first time and still realize it's got doors and wheels, and they're going to call that a car too. And they're not going to be able to distinguish between, okay, one of them is a car, one of them is an SUV, one of them is a truck, right? So if you're assimilating this new SUV into your schema, you're probably just going to call it a car, like you call everything else a car. However, if you were to accommodate this new information, then you would realize, okay, this is similar to like a sedan, but it's its own name. It's an SUV. And you realize that they're all cars, but you don't call them all the same thing. Getting into Piaget's stages of cognitive development, we have 4. We have sensory motor, we have pre-operational, we have concrete operational, and we have formal operational. So let's start with our sensory motor stage. This is 0 to 2. I'm going to do the same thing like I did with the other videos from the last video that we watched. We're going to watch them in class and we're going to debrief them all together. But in this cognitive development stage, you see the child is anywhere from 0 to 2. All of their new experiences in the world, they get from using their 5 senses through looking at things, hearing things, touching things, mouthing and grasping things. So this is why, a child might see something and then like automatically put it in their mouth. Okay, they're trying to learn more about it. They're trying to experiment with it, but they're using their senses. Right? They're going to touch things. They're going to smell things. A lot of times, though, things go in the mouth. They're trying to taste things. That's why we got to be careful, right? We don't need our baby swallowing something. They also develop object permanence around 9 months. Before 9 months, I don't know if any of you have like played peekaboo with a baby, right? And the reason kids like peekaboo as like when they're babies, like when they're younger than 9 months, is because they actually think you disappear when your hands go in front of your face, Okay, your hands go in front of your face, the person disappeared. When you say peekaboo, the baby's so surprised because they're like, oh my gosh, you're back. It's crazy, right? And so I don't know if you've ever seen like a baby like get someone's keys and start like chewing on the keys, and the parents are like, oh my gosh, those are dirty, and like take the keys away from the baby. The baby actually thinks they're gone when they take the keys away and put them in a place where the baby can't see them. Okay. You and I realize those keys did not actually disappear. They're just in a different place. A baby before 9 months does not realize that. After 9 months, though, they can start to pick up on that and be like, oh no, those keys didn't actually disappear. You just hid them from me. Right. But before that, they actually think they disappear. Okay, let's get into the pre-operational stage. This is ages 2 through 7. A lot is going to happen in this stage, probably the most stuff. So children develop language and symbolic thinking. Okay, so Piaget concluded that preschool children, so think about how old you are when you're in preschool, probably like 3 or 4, are egocentric. They cannot perceive things from another point of view. This is not selfishness, right? This is, selfishness we see in all different stages of life. This is the idea that they actually can't cognitively grasp what someone else is thinking. Like they think that you see everything that they see, you know everything that they know, and stuff like that. So, for example, if an egocentric child is playing hide and go seek, they might just hide their face against the wall. If he can't see you, then you can't see him, right? And you can see the inability here to take on someone else's perspective. Like if you and I were to play hide and seek and I just hid in plain sight and covered my eyes and was like, well, I can't see you, so you can't see me. The other people would be like, you suck at hide and seek. We can all see you, right? But someone who is like preschool age, they can't comprehend that. Okay, so I'll show you an example in class. They have this researcher on one side of the table and a child on the other side of the table. And they ask the child, like, what do you think I see on the table? And the child described what he sees. So, however, you start to grow out of that in this stage, by like ages 6 and 7, you're a lot less egocentric than you were at like 3 and 4. Another thing that we see in the pre-operational stage is a lack of conservation, which is the knowledge that quality can remain in something when the shapes or other properties change. So, for example, what they did to test this out was they put 2 different sized cups in front of a kid. They put like a short, wide cup and then a tall, skinny cup, and poured the same amount of liquid in each cup. And they asked the kid which glass had more liquid in it. They don't realize that just because one is tall and skinny and the other short and wide, they don't realize that those can hold the same amount of liquid. Most of the time, they always said the tall and skinny one had more liquid because it was just bigger than the short and wide glass. So again, I'll show you a super cute video of that. You can see like which kids can tell the difference and which ones can't. So obviously, as you go in this stage, like around 6 and 7, you're going to be able to tell the difference. But kids at the beginning of the pre-operational stage, they're going to have that, they can't grasp that idea of conservation, that things can remain the same regardless of the shape. Concrete operational, this is ages 7 to 12. Okay, kids develop the ability to think in a more logical manner. So children in this stage master the idea of conservation. So what we just talked about, they're good, they've got it, and no longer are egocentric. So they've moved out of that too. Yet items still presented simply and in a hands-on manner. So for example, if you're doing math problems, the kids might still use their fingers to do math, which some of y'all are like, I do that still. But children at this age are also able to transform mathematical functions. And so they're able to realize, okay, if 4 plus 8 equals 12, then 12 minus 4 equals 8. Or if 4 plus 8 equals 12, then 8 plus 4 equals 12. Okay, they're able to make those connections. So formal operational stage, this is 12 plus. This is categorized by abstract reasoning. And so this is like, your middle school years. This is why teachers start asking you more like abstract questions that you have to problem solve. It gets you to think about like deeper issues. A lot of times we see this in our teenage years. Okay, especially in high school. Think about like all the teachers that are having you like infer things. Yet some research has shown that not everyone fully masters this stage. Some research has shown that approximately 60% of adults reach this stage. So some of our adults are just not getting to this abstract reasoning phase. So most of us do, most of us will, but it's categorized by abstract reasoning. Okay, this is where we're going to stop for cognitive development. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took your notes on the correct slides. And then we will be moving into adolescence in the next video. But make sure that you go back to your baby book and fill out the infancy and childhood sections of your baby book, because you've got to talk about your physical development, your cognitive development, and your social development. At this point, you have all the information on that, and you should be able to fill that out in your baby book. Okay, friends, see you later.